So one topic I've been seeing debated more and more online following the most recent announcement of the Zelda Tears of the Kingdom themed Nintendo Switch OLED edition console is the conversation around what, if anything, does this mean for potential new Nintendo Switch hardware. Now that we have a OLED revision once again with a different theme on it, does that signal that Nintendo is much further out from releasing or talking about any true next generation hardware? And in today's video, I want to break down and discuss the implications of the latest special edition Nintendo Switch OLED that will be launching on April 28th and talk about where we should be setting our expectations in light of this announcement when it comes to things like new Nintendo Switch hardware being revealed anytime soon. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below. Hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. Now, as I mentioned, guys, today we are discussing the implications of the recent announcement of the Zelda Tears of the Kingdom themed Nintendo Switch OLED that I think many saw coming because, well, we had the thing leaked ahead of time. We saw official manufacturing photos that were hotly debated online. Some people definitely were in the camp that, yes, this is real. It has to be. They showed us a symbol we hadn't seen marketed from Nintendo. Other people thought maybe that symbol was laying around somewhere and somebody somehow found it and knew about it and it didn't ever get officially shouted out from Nintendo, but that the thing was just doctored and photoshopped. And clearly now we have the answer to what that thing really was. And to take you back a little bit to why Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and new Nintendo Switch hardware go so hand in hand in terms of people's conversations around expectations for new Nintendo hardware, it has to do with how Nintendo originally launched the Nintendo Switch in 2017, which was alongside of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Many thought that that pattern would repeat, including myself. I thought it would be the perfect launch game for new hardware. We're past 6 full years of the Switch being sold and available on the market. We are starting the 7th year of sales this year in 2023. And so if you look at Nintendo's overall console history and how far apart a typical generation is, we would normally have the true next-gen successor, or at the very least a mid-gen refresh or something more powerful at this point in time in Nintendo's hardware lineup, and clearly today with the Switch we do not. Now, I have always thought Nintendo would do one or the other with Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Either it launches new, more powerful hardware, or it gets a special edition console like we've seen Nintendo do very recently for big games like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and Splatoon 3 before it, and it only made sense that it would be one strategy or the other strategy, and now we know it is the Zelda Tears of the Kingdom themed OLED that is out April 28th, 2023. Now, many online jump to the conclusion that between this and recent comments from Doug Bowser saying that they still feel very bullish about the Switch for the foreseeable future and it'll still sell well, that it means that maybe we shouldn't be expecting any kind of new hardware anytime soon, because why would Nintendo sell some kind of special edition console for a major marquee game that's launching on the current generation of Switch hardware, and then a few months later turn around and announce and unveil a brand new, more powerful piece of hardware for the Nintendo Switch lineup? And that is where I personally believe that we may be surprised by Nintendo. I personally believe that in early 2024, it is likely the time to see and actually be able to purchase the true next generation Nintendo Switch console. We don't have much to go off of other than a lot of leaks and information that has been put out online suggesting that the chipset of the Nintendo Switch 2, or whatever the more powerful version of the console will ultimately be, is ultimately done. It is most likely ready for mass production because it's been taped out according to official job listings that mention a Tegra T239. That's linked to an NVIDIA leak that shows a lot of different information around NVM2, which is the link to the SoC that will be running the next generation Switch. We know that at the very least, Nintendo has new hardware in the works. They work on hardware years before it actually comes out to the public's hands. So at the very least, there are pieces of the puzzle moving in the background, and I personally don't believe that the Zelda Tears of the Kingdom themed OLED actually changes anything at all in terms of hardware expectations. It could even launch in holiday 2023, although I think that is far more unlikely, and I think we are far more likely to see maybe it revealed at the tail end of 2023, but actually sold and launched in the beginning of 2024, likely that March or April time window, very similar to how they did it with the original Switch, albeit that will be 7 years after that console originally launched. I then think we likely see some kind of price drop for the base model and OLED consoles, and it's likely that the Switch 2 will be sold at a full $400 retail price with more premium specs, with much better graphical capability in terms of being able to do things like 4K via DLSS resolution when docked, maybe even something like 1080p in handheld mode, and then we can get games running at a more consistent 60 frames per second. I was very happy with the recent reveal of Tears of the Kingdom gameplay, although you can argue that while it for sure looks better than Breath of the Wild, it is still running on the same hardware, and that is very obvious. It's very ambitious if you think about the seamless transitions from the sky to the ground beneath. That is a very impressive feat, especially for Nintendo Switch hardware that is running a Tegra X1 that was originally put in devices in 2015, then sold in the Switch in 2017. It is impressive that the developers were able to pull that off, but I believe we are at a point in time where we can't hold on to that chip too much longer without it being essentially unbearable for third-party developers to port their games over, and even dedicated Nintendo Switch games just not running good or being optimized, or you have to jump through all types of ridiculous development hoops to make it run correctly. Just look at Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, for example. We also have the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet leak suggesting that alongside DLC 2, there is some kind of new Nintendo Switch hardware patch, performance patch, that is actually being planned and worked on right now. And the only reason we give this leak any credibility is because the 4chan post that revealed it leaked the entire contents of the latest Pokemon Presents around the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet update. So whoever that person was had inside knowledge, and unless if they just wanted to throw a bunch of people off the trail in terms of what to expect with new hardware at the end and threw in that as a fib, the rest of it was 100% legit. So it is likely that that early 2024 timing is what we should expect, and this Zelda Tears of the Kingdom themed OLED is just another collector's item. And I think you can definitely see Nintendo treating the Switch a lot more like a DS, 3DS, Game Boy, or Game Boy Advance style system, where there are just many different options available for purchase. There are many different special editions that come out. Nintendo has done that with their home consoles over the years as well, but they've definitely done it more on the handheld side, and I think this is just another thing that for Zelda collectors out there, they're excited to give them the opportunity to purchase it. I am one of those people who will be purchasing it and already have on pre-order, and I don't think that this ultimately impacts their plans in any way, shape, or form to potentially launch new hardware, whether that be later this year, we will have to wait and see, or more likely early 2024. I think those plans are still rolling forward, and I think we only see more leaks and potential manufacturing plant leaks even, although Nintendo tried to get ahead of one of those leakers where they had removed and permabanned one of the workers that was responsible for taking pictures and leaking things like the Splatoon 3 OLED and many other Nintendo projects that were not officially announced at that point. So a lot of different puzzle pieces are falling into place around new hardware, in my opinion. Not to mention, you can just look around and logically see that it is time for Nintendo to do something that's more powerful. I am very hopeful that Tears of the Kingdom will get some kind of performance patch upgrade. I am very hopeful that this thing will be backwards compatible and we will be able to run our entire library of Switch eShop and physical games on the new console, although it sounds like that will take some work, especially if you ask certain developers for the Switch like MVG, who made a dedicated video on it. But I do think it's possible, and I do think Nintendo will do that with the incredible library of games that they've created on the Switch, and with some of the evergreen titles that they will want to continue to sell on new, more powerful hardware. And then we're going to have to shift the conversation to what kind of games should we expect to launch the thing. Will Metroid Prime 4 be a launch window type of game? It might not. It's not the biggest system seller out there, so I could definitely see something like a more ambitious 3D Mario game or Donkey Kong game coming out along launch window, if not both. And maybe we get some kind of future sequel for Mario Kart, because you can't argue that that's not a system seller at this point after looking at what Mario Kart 8 Deluxe accomplished. So we will have to ultimately wait and see what Nintendo reveals, but I'm confident that 2023 and 2024 are the years to pay attention to in terms of new hardware announcements. And I definitely want to hear from you guys at this point in the video whether or not you're planning on picking up the Zelda Tears of the Kingdom themed OLED, and more importantly, your overall thoughts and opinions on how you think this affects the broader hardware conversation, if you think it affects it at all. Do you think the OLED console is any kind of indication that the Switch has a longer life cycle ahead of it than we maybe even realize? Are we talking about 8 years of this console being sold before we find out what's next from Nintendo? Or do you think that it has a transitional period where we get a price discount on the current family of Switches today and we see it sold alongside of the new next gen hardware, and that's how we ultimately see it last 10 years? Or do you think that Nintendo really just rides this thing far too long, in my opinion, without revealing anything next? And what do you personally hope we see in terms of functionality, performance, and backwards compatibility when it comes to new next generation Nintendo Switch hardware? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, which is on screen right now. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.